This is a survival story set in a Lovecraftian world. Imagine that everyone on Earth is mysteriously transported to a bizarre sea, where each person is given a ship. The ocean is filled with all sorts of eerie and monstrous creatures. To survive, you may acquire various weapons, or perhaps gain different abilities to help you stay alive. This is the 5th installment in this series. If you're interested, you can start from the first episode. Trust me, you'll experience a uniquely captivating story.
The serpent coiled tightly around him, and he could barely free his right hand to aim and shoot. What did the rest of him matter to the serpent? The serpent continued to tighten its grip, and Elias Graves could feel his ribs scraping together, unable to resist. He counted the seconds, waiting for his next shot. He fired again. Click! The gun misfired. But it didn't matter. He still had another chance. The sea serpent continued to tighten its coils, and Elias Graves could feel his lungs being compressed, the risk of broken ribs looming, his body going numb. But he remained calm, waiting for the next opportunity to shoot. The serpent sensed something was wrong. Elias Graves was different from any prey it had encountered before. To finish him off, it lunged forward and sank its teeth into his left shoulder. "You're daring to bite me? Then I'll bite you back," Elias Graves snarled, sinking his teeth into the serpent's scales. The force was so great, it pierced the serpent's armor. At the same time, his third shot rang out, targeting the serpent's head on his left shoulder. Boom! A thunderous crack echoed from beneath the water. This shot blasted off half the serpent's head. But it didn't die immediately, letting out a shrill, agonized screech before releasing its hold on its troublesome prey. Its death, however, was now inevitable. There was no chance of survival. "I've won!" Elias Graves felt a sense of relief and relaxation wash over him. Though the battle was fierce, he had triumphed. His body began to slowly sink. "Damn it! I need to swim up!" Elias Graves attempted to control his body, but he found it wouldn't respond. Above the surface, a loud explosion of water erupted, shooting into the air, followed by a stream of thick, black blood rising from the depths. Suna had been watching the underwater movements, and the moment the gunshot rang out, she yanked on the rope tied to her waist. But the other end was broken. Somewhere amidst the struggle between Elias Graves and the serpent, the rope had snapped. Suna glanced at the surface, hesitated for a few seconds, and then leapt into the water. Minutes later, Elias Graves expelled a mouthful of water, along with a chunk of serpent skin that had been bitten off. After regaining his breath, his health rapidly returned, and his mind cleared. It was Suna who had saved him, performing CPR to bring him back. "Thank you. I owe you my life," Elias Graves said with deep gratitude. Before losing consciousness, he had noticed the broken rope. He had thought he was as good as dead, but unexpectedly, this woman had jumped in to save him. He also noticed that his question mark skill had unlocked, now at February 3rd. At that point, Elias Graves had a rough idea of what the condition was. Likely it was to die 3 times near death. On the other side, Suna's thoughts were equally tangled. Her gaze toward Elias Graves was strange, like she was studying a rare, exotic creature. To gamble with your life without hesitation, it goes against the instincts of any living being. How strange. I must make a note of this in my observation journal. After finishing her thoughts, she noticed Elias Graves' shoulder wound. "You've been bitten. This snake is probably venomous." Suna moved closer, attempting to suck out the venom from his wound with her mouth. She didn't stop until the blood she spat out had turned a bright red. Elias Graves watched her, a flicker of gratitude stirring in his chest. After all, what she did carried risks. Though snake venom was mostly protein and could be digested by stomach acids, if there were any mucosal damage in the mouth or digestive tract, it could be deadly. Once the wound was dealt with, Elias Graves felt himself recover. The two of them successfully made their way to their respective ships. Elias Graves' observation journal. His madness is so captivating. He will never retreat, maintaining clarity in his mind, formulating battle plans. Yet, perhaps he doesn't realize how strong his thirst for combat is, how desperately he craves to kill, even if it means his own death. He wouldn't hesitate for a second. "You're daring to bite me. Then I'll bite you back," Elias Graves snarled, sinking his teeth into the serpent's scales. The force was so great, it pierced the serpent's armor. At the same time, his third shot rang out, targeting the serpent's head on his left shoulder. Boom! A thunderous crack echoed from beneath the water. This shot blasted off half the serpent's head. But it didn't die immediately, letting out a shrill, agonized screech before releasing its hold on its troublesome prey. Its death, however, was now inevitable. There was no chance of survival. "I've won!" Elias Graves felt a sense of relief and relaxation wash over him. Though the battle was fierce, he had triumphed. His body began to slowly sink. "Damn it, I need to swim up." Elias Graves attempted to control his body, but he found it wouldn't respond. Above the surface, a loud explosion of water erupted, shooting into the air, followed by a stream of thick, black blood rising from the depths. Suna had been watching the underwater movements, and the moment the gunshot rang out, she yanked on the rope tied to her waist. But the other end was broken. Somewhere amidst the struggle between Elias Graves and the serpent, the rope had snapped. Suna glanced at the surface, hesitated for a few seconds, and then leapt into the water. Minutes later, Elias Graves expelled a mouthful of water, along with a chunk of serpent skin that had been bitten off. After regaining his breath, his health rapidly returned, and his mind cleared. It was Suna who had saved him, performing CPR to bring him back. "Thank you. I owe you my life," Elias Graves said with deep gratitude. Before losing consciousness, he had noticed the broken rope. He had thought he was as good as dead, but unexpectedly, this woman had jumped in to save him. He also noticed that his question mark skill had unlocked, now at February 3rd. At that point, Elias Graves had a rough idea of what the condition was. Likely it was to die 3 times near death. On the other side, Suna's thoughts were equally tangled. Her gaze toward Elias Graves was strange, like she was studying a rare, exotic creature. To gamble with your life without hesitation, it goes against the instincts of any living being. How strange. I must make a note of this in my observation journal. After finishing her thoughts, she noticed Elias Graves' shoulder wound. "You've been bitten. This snake is probably venomous." Suna moved closer, attempting to suck out the venom from his wound with her mouth. She didn't stop until the blood she spat out had turned a bright red. Elias Graves watched her, a flicker of gratitude stirring in his chest. After all, what she did carried risks. Though snake venom was mostly protein and could be digested by stomach acids, if there were any mucosal damage in the mouth or digestive tract, it could be deadly. Once the wound was dealt with, Elias Graves felt himself recover. The two of them successfully made their way to their respective ships. Elias Graves' observation journal. His madness is so captivating. He will never retreat, maintaining clarity in his mind, formulating battle plans. Yet, perhaps he doesn't realize how strong his thirst for combat is, how desperately he craves to kill, even if it means his own death. He wouldn't hesitate for a second. But what if the enemy is too powerful? What choice would he make then? This remains to be seen. Which Suna? Back on the ship, the fish and shellfish they had caught earlier had already rotted, unfit for consumption. Elias Graves had kept only a cystic pufferfish, tossing the rest back into the sea. His food supply consisted of just 1 black bread, 3 eye fruit, and 38 vitality coconuts. As for freshwater, he had only 1 L remaining. Elias Graves ate 3 of the eye fruits and grabbed a vitality coconut, preparing to mix a bottle of vitality coconut drink to restore his energy. Player Suna requests to board the ship. Elias Graves immediately accepted. She boarded from the stern and quickly made her way into the nightmare ship's cabin. At that moment, Elias Graves was mixing the vitality coconut drink. "You know how to make potions?" Suna asked in surprise. I got a recipe on the island. I can mix salt and vitality coconuts to make vitality coconut drink. Would you like to try? Elias Graves handed the freshly mixed drink to Suna. She had saved his life, so it was nothing to offer her a gift. Suna took it, eyeing it curiously for a moment, but didn't drink. Instead, she stored it in her treasure bag. I won't take any of your supplies. Elias Graves made a suggestion, drinking the freshly made coconut drink. Suna didn't mind. After all, the astrologer's ship was practically barren of supplies, its pockets clinking with emptiness. Shall we cooperate again? Elias Graves asked. The storm on the sea was fierce. Their chances would be much greater if they worked together. Moreover, the astrologer's ship could provide a map, ensuring they wouldn't get lost in the storm. All right, Suna agreed, as that was exactly why she had come. Elias Graves stepped out of the cabin, and outside, a dark, suffocating haze filled the sky. The wind howled, carrying sea spray, shaking the ship violently. He didn't intend to leave immediately, as there was an urgent matter to attend to. He had been poisoned by the sea serpent and needed antidotes. The status panel in his log had already displayed a poison state. The serpent's information confirmed that it was indeed venomous. Elias Graves walked up to the monster gacha machine, tossing the blood and flesh of the two sea demons, along with the serpent's skin, into the machine. Name: large sea serpent. Description: a cunning giant sea serpent, larger than a typical python, enjoys torturing its prey, can be put into the monster gacha machine. Mildly poisonous. Are you sure you don't want to trade that sea demon corpse for a gacha egg? Elias Graves suddenly turned and asked, because in Suna's treasure bag, there was still another sea demon's corpse. No, Suna shook her head vehemently. In her eyes, this corpse held immense value, far exceeding that of a gacha egg. By studying the sea demon's physiology, she could acquire the knowledge she sought. And knowledge, to her, was far more precious than any item. Elias Graves shrugged and didn't press further. He turned back to the gacha machine, twisting the octopus head dial. The familiar sound of capsules colliding echoed from within. Before long, 3 capsules were spit out. Suna stood behind Elias Graves, observing his every move as she pulled out a small notebook and began recording. Elias Graves lives aboard a ghost ship. His mental state is precarious. His gacha machine is a terrifying octopus head. But Elias Graves seems to have an odd affection for it. Unaware of the scrutiny, Elias Graves picked up a glowing orb. The first item was a can, adorned with an image of a mermaid. Name: Siren's Call. Type: consumable. Quality: good. Description: contains a special gas. When inhaled, it produces a piercing shriek that paralyzes nearby creatures temporarily, causing their sanity to drop. Inhaling will reduce sanity by 20. You have acquired the Siren's Call, but evidently you cannot sing. The second item was a blue crystal pendant. Name: Siren's Tear. Type: relic. Quality: good. Description: when worn, it grants immunity to enchantments but induces occasional hallucinations, as if a siren is singing in your ear, causing sanity to decrease. The third item was a short sword. Name: Sea Serpent's Fang. Type: artifact. Quality: good. Description: a short sword made from the teeth of a massive sea serpent with a mild paralyzing effect. It can deal slight damage to otherworldly creatures. Elias Graves had decent luck. 2 out of the 3 gacha pulls resulted in useful equipment, one of which was a weapon, perfect for compensating for the low damage output during the musket's cooldown. The other 2 items, Elias Graves thought for a moment, planning to either sell or trade them. The Siren's Tear was a deadly weapon against sirens, but with his frenzied state, he already had built-in immunity, making it somewhat redundant. As for the enchantment, such mental attacks could be quickly adapted to by players with high mental stats. The first time he was enchanted, his sanity dropped by 10, but after that, the effect had been lessened to 5. Next time, it might not even be that much. The Siren's Call, however, was a decent item, but Elias Graves was in urgent need of healing, so he reluctantly decided to part with it. He immediately sent a private message to Captain Lyra of the Radiant Goddess. Elias Graves, I need 2 vials of holy water. Do you have any in stock? It seemed she was busy, as a few minutes passed before a reply came back. Lyra, to make it brief, I'm currently preparing to sail and don't have time to produce holy water. My stock is limited. Elias Graves understood her meaning. She had the goods, but at a high price. But he had enough bargaining power, so he replied, 1 vial of vitality coconut juice, the Siren's Tear and Siren's Call. I'll trade them all for your 2 vials of holy water. This time, Lyra's response came much faster. You're a male player? You actually killed a siren? She replied, astonished. After all, in the chat channel, many male players had already fallen victim to the sirens. Lyra, at that price, I can offer you 3 vials of holy water. We can collaborate again in the future. The trade was quickly completed. Elias Graves tossed the trade items into the monster gacha machine. Before long, 3 vials of holy water appeared in his hands. He immediately drank one, then handed one to Suna. You were right. That sea serpent was poisonous. Just to be safe, you should drink one too. It will help with both detoxification and healing. Suna took the holy water but didn't drink it right away. Instead, she curiously examined the vial before stuffing it into her bag of holding. I'm telling you to drink it, not store it away. Elias Graves interrupted, his tone sharp. If you're not going to drink it, give it back. At the same time, Elias Graves couldn't help but feel a bit suspicious. Suna always seemed to want to stash everything in her bag. Vitality coconut juice, holy water, the siren's body. What was she up to? Suna froze for a moment but didn't respond. However, she could tell Elias Graves was serious. Eventually, she relented, unscrewed the cap, and drank the holy water. You'd better swallow it. Elias Graves' sharp eyes caught that she hadn't actually swallowed it yet. Her cheeks puffed out with the liquid still inside. Suna frowned, seemingly displeased. But under Elias Graves' insistence, she reluctantly swallowed it. Open your mouth and let me see. Ah! Suna obediently opened her mouth, and it seemed she really had drunk it. Elias Graves nodded. Actually, Suna had injuries as well, so this would help her heal faster. Meanwhile, Suna quietly pulled out a small booklet and started writing. Elias Graves is very fierce, likes to force others. What are you writing? Elias Graves asked as he approached. Nothing. Suna quickly hid the booklet, her face unreadable. Elias Graves saw this and didn't press further. After all, it was her private matter. Have you read the chat channel and the announcements? Everyone's desperately trying to escape this sea area. We need to leave too. Elias Graves analyzed the situation and asked about the astrologer's ship. Her ship was only level 1, meaning it was 10 knots slower than the level 2 Nightmare. They discussed it and decided to use the grappling hooks to tie the 2 ships together. This way, neither ship would fall behind. Before we leave, do me one last favor. Elias Graves looked toward the coconut trees, their crowns barely visible above the water. The coconuts were almost floating. Let's circle the island first and grab as many coconuts as we can. We'll only make 1 round, no lingering. Suna nodded in agreement. Elias Graves originally planned to gather all of them, but that would take too much time. The 2 ships circled the island once and collected a total of 92 vitality coconuts. This was a decent haul, and Elias Graves generously gave Suna half. Both now had 46 coconuts each. With the original 34 coconuts on the ship, they now had a total of 126 vitality coconuts. Elias Graves with 80 and Suna with 46. For the foreseeable future, Elias Graves wouldn't need to worry about energy recovery. Today's weather. The storm has intensified. Beware of floating debris in the sea. Location: Origin Sea, Storm Sea. Daylight: unknown. Temperature: 13 to 18 degrees Celsius. Wind speed: level 9. Elias Graves and Suna had formed a fleet, and they had been sailing on the seas for 2 days now. In these 2 days, they hadn't seen the sun once. The sea was pitch black, and visibility was limited. The wind had also increased in strength, and the waves were tumultuous. The ship's speed, which had been several knots, could barely maintain half that speed. When the storm first began, the wind was only at level 4, the golden period for travel. During this time, Elias Graves had been charmed by the siren, missing out on the prime travel period, causing his progress to lag far behind. He was now at the back of the main fleet. From the chat channel, Elias Graves learned that his friend, Captain Suda of the Gale ship, had already broken through the stormy sea zone the night before. His ship was the fastest in the game, reaching 70 knots, and it would only go faster if it were level 2. Suda had released intelligence. Outside the storm zone, the sea was calm, and the sun was shining brightly. It was expected that many faster ships would break out of the storm zone in the next 2 days. Except for the 2 unlucky ones, Elias Graves and Suna, who were stuck midway. Damn it! Elias Graves hadn't slept in days, his eyes bloodshot and his temper flaring. He drank a bottle of coconut juice to restore some energy and sent a private message to Suna in his journal. Suna, there aren't any islands or reefs ahead, right? He didn't want to carelessly run aground on some island or smash into a reef. No, don't bother me right now. It's a critical moment. Since 2 days ago, after she returned to the astrologer's ship, Suna hadn't shown herself. What exactly are you doing? Elias Graves asked, but Suna didn't reply. She was in the ship's cabin of the astrologer's ship, standing near a wooden table. Not far from her, there was a basketball-sized crystal ball, showing the sea charts for 100 nautical miles. But her focus wasn't on the sea chart. Instead, it was on the siren's corpse laid out on the table. Suna used the witch's dagger like a scalpel, cutting into the siren's skin, observing its intricate neural and vascular structures, hypothesizing its organ composition, and recording everything in detail. Some organs had already been completely removed, including the brain and eyes, which were now floating in glass jars. She had spent considerable resources exchanging for a few jars, all for this moment. This siren, its body structure has many defects. It's more fitting to call it a mermaid. It has an immune rejection response in its body, like forcibly fusing human and fish organs together, and they reject each other. It needs to eat humans to alleviate this rejection. She muttered her discoveries as she wrote them down. But this rejection seems to be weakening. If it disappears completely, the siren's body might undergo a new transformation. On the other side, Elias Graves was still steering the ship, dodging the floating debris caused by the currents. If it weren't for the storm, many players would have gladly used their grappling hooks to catch the debris. But now, everyone avoided it like the plague. These floating objects were large, fast-moving, and some were even fragments of ships. No one knew whose misfortune it came from. So Elias Graves kept his nerves taut, constantly dodging the debris. His nightmare ship was in terrible condition with low durability, only 600. The hull was made of rotten wood, and it was a far cry from being sturdy. After just 3 collisions, its durability had dropped by over 100. A few more hits and his ship would fall apart. In this critical moment, Elias Graves had considered using the pirate ship blueprint. But the system warned that the environment wasn't safe, and he wasn't allowed to use the blueprint for modifications. Helpless, Elias Graves could only continue pushing forward, gritting his teeth. At the same time, he kept an eye on the World Chat channel, monitoring the changes and movements in the sea. The messages were mostly bad news and players' complaints. Damn it! The wind was too strong. I think I've gone the wrong way. Can anyone tell me which direction I'm heading? How much farther? Hurry up, hurry up. Buying wood. High price for wood. I've got millions in my bank. Just need 10 units of wood. I'll pay you everything. Idiot. Shit. My ship is taking on water. Who's selling wood? 30 sea conch coins per unit. I'll buy it all. Wood could be used to repair ships, making it incredibly valuable and hard to find. Sometimes, 1 unit of wood could be sold for 50 sea conch coins. Something's attacking my ship from beneath. Suddenly, a message caught Elias Graves' attention. This could be a new development in the sea, the arrival of monsters. The player's plight drew attention from many others, who quickly began to ask, "Dude, did you hear right? Could you have hit an obstacle?" "No, I'm in the cabin, and the ship's body keeps creaking. Something's definitely ramming into my ship. My God! Haha! The monsters are starting to spawn. You all take your time. I'm already at the boundary. Later. Help! It's the fishmen." The message was abruptly cut off. The person probably perished, with the system sending his unfinished last words. Elias Graves grew tense. A spray of seawater splashed across his face, and an eerie chill ran down his spine. He immediately contacted Suna. "Suna, there might be monsters in the sea. We need to prepare. What's going on over there?" Elias Graves asked. Suna had just finished her dissection. Her face was flushed from overexcitement, her eyes bloodshot as she exhaled slowly, gazing at the information popping up in her journal. Condition met. Dissected and studied 2 halves different types of aberrant monsters. Your talent has unlocked Taboo Scholar. Taboo Scholar, permanent reduction of 20 to sanity. The mysticism system is now open. You can now build special rooms, develop your own unique formulas, and create exclusive items. You couldn't resist your curiosity in the end. Little did you know, this may be a path with no return. Suna, I'm talking to you. What are you doing? Respond. Elias Graves was getting frustrated. Only then did Suna take a deep breath, calm herself, and reply. "What's the matter? How's your ship's durability?" Elias Graves asked. "Almost no damage." "Good. Come to the nightmare ship. I'll grant you permissions. Help me repair the ship and restore its durability." "Got it," Suna agreed. She tucked the precious organ pieces and body parts into her treasure bag, grabbed the crystal ball, and walked toward the nightmare ship. The 2 ships were tethered together with rope hooks, very close to one another. Normally, they could easily pass with a wooden plank. But now, with both ships rocking, it was better to climb across, as it would be more stable. Suna climbed over the plank, and as soon as she boarded the nightmare, Elias Graves called her into the cabin. "I've given you the permissions. Use stone materials to craft a stone hammer, then repair the nightmare's durability. After that, stay on the nightmare. We might encounter monsters, and splitting up would be dangerous." Meanwhile, more messages from players under attack popped up in the world chat. The monsters they encountered were unlike any others. "There are so many red lanterns in the water. They're closing in on me. Has anyone seen these? What are they? Just fireflies. Don't be afraid. Damn, a dozen little fishmen have cornered me in the captain's room. Come at me one-on-one. There's a person standing on the sea, blocking my path. One of the aberrant monsters triggered my trap. It's called a drowned, and I've turned it into a porcupine. Wait." Elias Graves paused for a moment, silently mourning for him. Most likely, the drowned exploded. Almost every minute, someone met their doom. But at the same time, many others managed to escape the storm-ridden sea unscathed. As for Elias Graves, perhaps because the nightmare ship had departed later, or because they were far behind the main fleet, they hadn't encountered any monsters yet. However, something else was troubling him. He was out of food. Water was no issue, thanks to the vitality coconuts, but protein and energy had to be replenished. "Suna, do you have any food on your ship?" Elias Graves sent her a private message. "Just 1 ell of water." Suna's voice echoed in his ear. She had just finished repairing the ship and was now holding a crystal ball on the ship's bow deck. The crystal ball was a dynamic navigational map, synchronizing with the sea conditions within a 100-mile radius. Right now, it only showed the 2 ships, Astrology and Nightmare, their markers dangerously close to each other. "Can your map be disassembled?" Elias Graves asked in surprise. "This crystal ball is a receiver. As long as it's not too far, it works fine," Suna explained. The map was simple, displaying only large obstacles on the sea, like giant floating objects, represented as small black dots, while islands appeared as large shadowed areas. By avoiding these black dots, they could effectively steer clear of the chaotic whirlpools created by massive floating debris. And with the map, they wouldn't lose their way. Another day passed. Even Elias Graves, made of iron, had to sleep and rest. The voyage turned into a shift system. One would steer the ship while the other took a rest in the captain's quarters. The nightmares aboard the nightmare ship seemed to plague only the captain, for Suna had never mentioned having any nightmares. Meanwhile, Elias Graves kept an eye on the chat channel, hoping to buy some food. But disappointment awaited him. Because of the storm, most players had exhausted their food supplies and weren't selling. Those who did had already escaped the storm-ridden seas, and even if the prices were high, he couldn't get a single bite. Elias Graves messaged one seller, but the reply came after 10 minutes. 3 words, "Sold out." Some didn't respond at all. This was true hunger marketing. Those who couldn't buy would starve. "We can't go on like this." Elias Graves sat up from the captain's quarters, his stomach growling incessantly. It was Suna at the helm now, and the wind had picked up to level 11. Even standing on the deck, one had to crouch slightly to maintain balance. His clothes never dried, always soaked with the salty sting of the sea. "We have to get food. Otherwise, once I run out of energy, we're finished," Elias Graves thought to himself. He ate a vitality coconut, drank its water, and devoured the coconut meat completely. With no other food, coconuts were all he had. But they didn't fill him up. They couldn't replace a high-energy meal. After some thought, Elias Graves' only solution to obtain food was fishing. And fortunately, he had a fishing rod on hand.